Update. While the Milwaukee Brewers had off yesterday, they'll be back in action tonight at American Family Field when they welcome in the Padres. They currently sit second in the NL Central at 22-16, 3.5 games behind the Cubs for first place. The Brewers are currently riding a 4-game win streak, 3 of those coming from a sweep from the New York Yankees. Here's more from manager Pat Murphy and what that series meant for his club.
Yeah, great series. Good lift in the first 30, how many games we've played. This is kind of a good lift to win like this.
Turning to the Milwaukee Bucks, it's reported that they are open for business on trade calls and offers for Giannis Antetokounmpo, their two-time MVP. Bucks co-owner Jimmy Haslam said last week they want to find a resolution to this before the NBA's draft, which will be late June. There is expected to be a huge asking price for the deal, a young blue-chip talent, and or a surplus of draft picks in exchange for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis, who is 31, has played all 13 of his NBA seasons in Milwaukee and holds every major statistical record in franchise history.
For nearly 40 years, ABC Wisconsin Apprenticeship has been helping men and women transform themselves into highly skilled trade professionals. These skills are in demand and provide strong wages and benefits for a bright future. If you're a hands-on person who likes the feeling when you get projects done, apprenticeship could be for you. Go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
The University of Wisconsin-Madison has announced that it will use a search that includes Colts GM Chris Ballard and former Badger basketball star Michael Finley to identify the school's next athletics director. They expect the AD to start this summer. And finally, the Packers are in Phase 2 of their offseason program. Phase 3 begins May 26th with beginning of OTAs. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
And you almost forget that Christian Yelich is on this team. It's like when Jackson Chourio came back last week. That's right. Jackson Chourio still on this team because the Brewers have been playing so long without him and without Vaughn and now without Yelich. But, that's another big bet they're going to get to this lineup with Yelich. Almost like making a trade, as they always say. So that's going to, when we last left off with Yelich, was having a pretty good year.
Pitching staff, it doesn't go unnoticed. You got Harrison, never been a full-time guy in the big leagues. You got Chad Patrick, first time in the pen. DL Hall emerging as a leverage guy, and what Ashby's done is amazing. So,
this is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Pat Murphy after the Yankees win the other day. Just talk about the pitching staff. I've had to carry this team, more than expected, with injuries to Vaughn, Chourio, and Yelich throughout the first couple of months of the season. And I think to a surprising level, I didn't think the starting rotation would have this in them. Kyle Harrison's been better than expected. I think Miz has been what they've needed him to be, whether or not you expected that or not. That's something different. I think they put a lot on his shoulders. So far, he's carrying it. And the bullpen has really turned a corner here and is pitching really well, but it's through guys that maybe we didn't expect when the season started. Instead of maybe McGill and Uribe, we're talking about Ashby and Drowan and DL Hall to a lesser degree. And certainly Uribe has been solid, maybe not spectacular, but still pretty good. And McGill might just be figuring it out too. So Murph talking about the pitching staff, and the first voice you heard was Chuck Freeman talking about how I almost forget that Christian Yelich is on this team. Just like you almost forgot that Jackson Chourio is on this team because they started the season without him. Christian Yelich started the season here, but missed a good chunk of time on the IL. It's announced that he's going to be back in the Brewers lineup tonight, which is a little bit earlier than I thought. I think earlier than most thought, including Chuck, who talked about it earlier today. And I was reading Kurt and JR in the Journal Sentinel earlier this week. I don't think anybody would have bet him to return, tonight. I mean, maybe later this week. I know Pat Murphy said maybe this homestand, but still, that seemed early. But a positive surprise for the Brewers today. So that's where I want to start. I want to start with some Brewers transactions, a couple of housekeeping bits. We got some news on Koenig. We got some news on Priester and Yelich, obviously, who's in the lineup tonight. Tyler Black has been sent back down in a nice stint as a DH. That's really all he's capable of doing at a high level right now. Doesn't really have a position. So even though he hit okay up here, he was up here and in a nice role because Christian Yelich was hurt. So we'll talk about the Brewers transactions, maybe what comes next. I'll take some of your Brewers phone calls. Colten Bartholomew going to be here at 4:30 to discuss what you might have heard in Ebo's update. Wisconsin has announced their search for the next athletic director, some of the parameters and some of the folks that are involved in that search. Colten really good with that stuff. from Badger Extra, the State Journal. So he'll be here at 4:30. I'll take your calls throughout, 608-321-1670, including some Brewers thoughts if you have any right from the jump here. But let's start with the breaking news, the injury updates from today. So it was all quiet on the Quinn Priester front. Made a couple rehab starts. They went poorly. Then he stopped pitching, but we were told he was healthy. So it's like, okay, well, what next? We learned today, and I read from you the tweet from Kurt Hogue. We'll get into his story here in a sec. Quinn Priester will begin a rehab assignment this weekend. Brandon Woodruff is scheduled to throw a bullpen on Thursday. Brandon Lockridge's MRI showed a bone bruise, and he is anticipated back mid to late June. So no bone damage, no ligament damage, just a really nasty impact wound and a lacerated leg. And Jared Koenig will throw his first bullpen session today, which might be the most significant update of them all. Like, the Brewers could certainly use Quinn Priester back and in the form that we saw last year. But their starting rotation right now is performing pretty well without him. Brandon Woodruff would certainly want him back. But again, they have lots of starting pitching options. You'd like Brandon Lockridge back. But now with Jackson Chourio healthy and Christian Yelich healthy, I'm not going to act like Brandon Lockridge is load-bearing. But you'd like him healthy. I'd take him over Blake Perkins. Jared Koenig, if he can get back to even 80, 90% of what we've seen the last couple of years, that's a leverage arm. That's a big power. Is he a righty or a lefty? Can't remember off the dome. I think he might be a righty. That's a big add to this bullpen, who again has some nice arms. Ashby, DL Hall's been better. Drowan's been good in middle relief. But what about the 8th and the 9th? We're still trying to figure out who the highest of high leverage guys are behind Uribe. McGill's trending hopefully in a good direction, but I'm still not so sure. So getting Koenig back in that spot would be absolutely massive. Kurt writes at the Journal Sentinel earlier today, Christian Yelich is back. It spreads. After spending exactly 1 month on the injured list with a left adductor strain, the Milwaukee Brewers DH returned to the active roster and is in the lineup for May 12th against the Padres. He injured his hamstring April 12th against Washington. All things considered, Yelich managed to return from the first soft tissue injury he's dealt with in the major leagues in minimal time. Yelich's activation comes 1 week after Chourio and Vaughn return to the lineup and gives the Brewers their full complement of offensive weapons, something they've not had for a single game this year. The Brewers, all things considered, fared reasonably well without their leader and captain during this month away. Milwaukee went 14-9, but don't confuse that record with the offense's performance. With Yelich on the shelf, Brewers batters hit .242 with a .330 OBP and slugged just .332, the lowest mark in the majors. Their 91 weighted runs created plus was 91, which is fifth worst in that span. Yelich in limited action batted .313 with 1 homer and an .826 OPS before getting hurt. With all forces now joined, the expectations that the Brewers will be able to deliver more slug to a lineup that has largely been able to score runs without doing much damage. Entering play on May 12th, they ranked dead last in the majors with 26 home runs and yet are somehow 8th in runs scored. Their run differential, as Bill pointed out earlier today, actually not bad. You'd think the Brewers, well, they've been finding a way to steal some games and steal some wins and get by. Their run differential is actually best in the division. They're plus 54, the Cubs plus 47, the Pirates plus 31, the Cardinals plus 3, and the Reds minus 33. Man, the Reds. I think a lot of that has to do with, well, they hung 13 on the Diamondbacks twice. They whooped up on the White Sox a couple of games early. But still, it's not like we're only 2 weeks into the season. The Brewers have played, 22 plus 16? 48 games? Am I doing that math correctly? Like, that's not, there are almost 50 games on the year. That's not a tiny sample. It's not a massive one either. But it's not like their run differential is pathetic and they're winning games completely on smoke and mirrors. They're using some smoke and mirrors, but they're able to score runs where they have in bunches. They've had certainly plenty of games where they've gone quiet too. Now with Yelich back, I look at the schedule of who's upcoming. I just wonder if this isn't the moment where we see this team do what we've talked about. We talked about it last night. We led the show with it. Talked for the last couple of weeks about, okay, so when is this team going to be able to go on a little bit of a run? Not necessarily just a winning streak, but reach a higher gear. Win 8 of 10, 11 of 15, 16 of 20, something like that. When is this team going to have that type of run in them? And the schedule lines up in just an interesting way this week. So they start a 3-game set tonight against the Padres. Then they go to Minnesota for 3 games. Those are 3 games that hopefully you should be able to get, or 2. That's a series you should be able to go have some success in. Then starting next week, you go to Chicago for 3 games. Now, the Cubs had won 20 of 23. They lost the weekend series against the Rangers. they still only lead the division by 3.5 games, which at this point in the season is not, it's not like the Cubs are going to lead by 10 games, even if they played at a really high level. But the Brewers are right there. And if they can hang tight and build some momentum this week, maybe win a series against the Padres, win a series against the Twins, you go into that Cubs series, I would think, with a really, really nice wind at your back. With some really nice juice, wouldn't you? You'd have to, right? And I'm not saying the Cubs would be looking over their shoulder, but I just love the spot the Brewers would be in going to that first series against the Cubs. And really, I believe, only the third divisional series of the year. They played against the Pirates and the Cardinals. This would be their third series this season against another NL Central team. You can win 2 series here, and that would make it what? You'd be winning. They've won 4 in a row. So 4 straight wins, +2, 6, 8. You'd be going 8-2 in the span of a week and a half, and you could take that into Chicago, and now you're fully healthy? Have Yelich, Chourio, Vaughn all playing together for the first time all year? With it seems like Koenig on the mend, Priester, they've at least fired him back up, and he's playing again. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying this team's about to go on an absolute tear and win 15 straight. I just love the makings. I love the trappings. I love his that soundbite yesterday that I played from Craig Kashan. I love the earmark, this team that has all the earmarkings of a team that could maybe go on a run right now. Let me give you that soundbite one more time. Craig Kashan yesterday saying that this team at some point might go on a run. We've seen little signs and little pieces here and there.
It's got all the earmarkings for it. And if you're going to be successful in the league and start just moving up the ladder and whatnot, you're going to have series. You need to have series like just what happened here, especially against a team that, the Yankees came in, on Friday, tied for the best record in the league. And I think a lot of people just expect them to keep doing what they're doing. But, the Brewers, they just played their game every single game of this series, which was kind of cool. So, but to cap it off the way they did, and then, with them just being in a position to, get the great pitching and everything that happened with them over the weekend, this is absolutely one that you might look back on. And if it is, that's great because the timing is perfect. You got a few guys coming back, this week to help out, and then hopefully they get Yelich back on this next series as well, which starts as soon as tomorrow.
So that was Craig Kashan again yesterday, and I like that phrase. Just talking about the earmarkings of a team that's maybe ready to do a little something here. Here's Vinny Rottino. This cut sent to me by Mike Clemens in our little audio delivery of the day, talking about what's made the difference this month for the Brewers winning more games. The offense still lagging a little bit, but what's made the difference for the Brewers recently?
You look over the last 162 games that Bryce Terang has played in, it's right up there with some of the best in the game offensively. And let's take out of the equation what he can do with the glove and also how he runs the bases. So you have guys like that developing. You have William Contreras, who's just been a model of consistency.
So not only the production of Yelich and the production of Chourio and Vaughn coming back, but makes life a little bit easier for Terang, takes a little pressure off of Contreras as well. And that's something that Pat Murphy talked about. I believe either at the end of the Yankee series, it might have been, I believe, when they beat St. Louis. They won in the finale last Wednesday. They won that game 6-2. And I think Murphy talked after the game, like, yeah, it's nice to have Chourio back just to take a little pressure, and Vaughn as well. Pressure taking off of Terang, who's getting pitched really tough, because why would I throw anything to Bryce Terang if I can just even walk Bryce Terang? Who's coming up? A whole lot of nobody in the 5 through 9 spot, or even the 4 through 9 spot. And that, if Contreras is hitting 2 or, wherever, I think Bryce Terang's life has been made a lot easier since the return of Vaughn and Chourio, and that would continue obviously tonight with Christian Yelich now back in the lineup as well. So I'll take your Brewers phone calls on the other side. We're going to break a little early so we can get to Colten Bartholomew on time. He's going to be here at 4:30 to discuss a little Badgers news. They've announced the parameters and some of the details of their search for the next athletic director. Colton's really good with this transactional stuff, so he'll be here at 4:35 to help us break it down. Your Brewers phone calls next. If you have anything to add, 608-321-1670. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I mean, the Cubs are playing way over their head for a while. They weren't going to keep that up. Catch a lot of teams the right time. I mean, when it looks like Phillies and the Mets, look good on the schedule, that as far as being powers, they're two of the worst teams in the National League so far. So, catching teams at the right time makes a big difference too. I think it might be interesting toward the trade deadline, Bill, like who's going to be the most aggressive. I think both teams, the Cubs and Brewers, both need a big-time frontline starter to make a difference. If you look at both teams, they're going to match up against Atlanta, Dodgers, say Philadelphia. On paper with the rotations, you don't know. So that's why I think it'll be very intriguing to see what team goes the hardest after whatever big-time starters are available. Whether it's Sandy Alcantara from Miami, Robbie Ray, we'll see.
Yeah.
Bob Nightingale yesterday with Bill Michaels, just comparing the Cubs and the Brewers a little bit. Yeah, the Cubs aren't going to play with that pace the rest of the season. I still think they're really good. Now, the Brewers are healthy. We got some news today. Christian Yelich back. He's in the lineup tonight. He's in left field. Priester's beginning a rehab assignment. They expect him back. I believe they said early June. I'll go double check that here in a sec. Brandon Woodruff's going to throw a bullpen on Thursday. Brandon Lockridge, just a bone bruise. He's anticipated back mid to late June. And Koenig's throwing his first bullpen today, which is outstanding news because I figured that injury maybe could take his season. Maybe he could be a candidate for Tommy John. So this team is getting healthier. They've won 4 in a row. Could they win a series against the Padres and the Twins and then go in with a whole lot of momentum next Monday night into Wrigley Field to the Cubs, who they're chasing right now? I like the spot. I like the spot that they're in a lot. 608-321-1670. Your Brewers phone calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant.
happy Yelich is back day.
Yelich is back. Either Yelich is back or possessive Yelich is back. Hopefully his back holds up.
Yeah, I hope so. Glad it didn't need surgery or anything, so that's good. Lineup is starting to look a little beefier. I like it, looking at the lineup card today.
I'm looking at it right now. Dom Catronio sharing that this is their 39th unique lineup of the year, 39 for 39. They have not repeated a lineup in the batting order and in positioning a single time, but it's Charang, Churio, Yelich, Contreras, Bowers, Mitchell, Frelick, Hamilton, Ortiz, Sproat. I like that. That looks nice. That makes me feel good to look at and to read, Cone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Padres going to be tough, but, just keep the momentum going, keep stacking wins, stacking success, and, it should be a good series. Real quick on the Badgers, do you have your 3 C's for this selection committee?
My confident, curious, and concerned?
Yeah.
So about specific people or what parameters are you putting on these 3 C's?
Just the overall process. You can get as granular as you want, but, just the 3 C's. What comes to mind?
Well, I'll tell you what, Cone, when we're done here on the phone, I can read the statement that they put out a little bit and we can work through it. I guess my biggest concern just off the rip is you're hiring an athletic director to come in when it kind of feels like your coach is a lame duck. And I don't like that misalignment. You know what I mean? I want an athletic director to come in and be there from the ground up to hire their own coach and to appoint. I just don't like when timelines are crossed. And that's how this feels right now. That would be one of my C's. I can work to get you a couple more, but that would be my concern.
Yeah. And just another statement. Even with Chris McIntosh gone, we still get another statement. And, any day you get a statement from UW Athletics, it's a good day for content.
I will take all of the statements that they hand out, which is why I screenshot it. I'll throw it up here on the simulcast before we get to Colton. Anything else, Colton, before I'll run here? I'm going to get to one other caller.
No, I just think Joey Ortiz hit the home run today. I don't know why. It's just what I think. I think he gets Brandon Sproat, the Sproat goat, throat goat, however you want to say it. Mm-hmm. I think he gets him some run support. And I think we see him get into the 6th inning.
Sproat into the 6th and a Joey Ortiz home run. Cone, I really hope you're right. I appreciate the call. Maybe Cone was at happy hour. I think Sproat has shown all the makings of being a really, really, really good starting pitcher. He's got to learn how to pitch. He's got to learn how to navigate an outing and bounce from inning to inning. And when you're feeling good or when you're not feeling so good, I think that's what he's learning. It's going to go against an offense that's very potent tonight. I didn't realize the Padres were first in the West. They're 24-16. The Dodgers are 24-17. So they have the same number of wins. Dodgers have an extra loss. This will be a good test. This will be a very good test. And the bullpen, you should think, pretty rested with an off day yesterday, an off day on Thursday. I know Ashby went Saturday and Sunday, so maybe, although that's never stopped Pat Murphy from getting in there before. So I would think most of their bullpen is available tonight, save for maybe Ashby, but I wouldn't even be so sure on that. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, Jeremy, and Eau Claire. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeremy. What's up? What's new?
Hey, not too much. Yeah, I think the Brewers are sitting in a good spot right now. These next few games are going to be really interesting. I was super stoked, like everybody else, about the Yankees sweep there. The AL isn't very good this year. I think there's 4 teams above 500 with a winning record. The NL has 9, and 5 of those 9 are in our division, all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're going to have a challenge against the Padres. They're 6-6 against teams above 500. I think we're sitting at 4-4. So it's going to be a battle. They can hit. Our pitching has definitely really improved a lot. Surprised by Ashby, actually. That's impressive.
Why are you surprised, Jeremy? You have little faith. Surprised.
Oh, come on now. We saw the early part of the season here. But no, Ashby's always been good in the role that he's in currently right now, and that's why I'm glad they're using him the way they are, where he's a middle reliever. He's great in that spot. But no, so I think it's going to be good. Now, the Cubs are going to face Atlanta, and all I have to say about that to Cubs fans is good luck. Hope that works out for you.
The Braves have been nasty.
Yeah. It's going to be tough because they can hit. They can hit hard. But then they face the White Sox, So we're stuck with the Padres. I think that's going to be a little tougher than the Yankees were. And then we get Minnesota, which isn't very good. But then we meet up face to face with the Cubs. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting week of baseball.
So I think the pitching for the Yankees, appreciate it, Jeremy, probably a little more challenging than the Padres. I fear this Padres offense a little bit more than I do the Yankees, although series to series, week to week, these things can, trend all sorts of different ways. The Cubs, I was just looking this week, have the Braves and then the Sox. They have Colin Ray, Imanaga, and they have Ben Brown slated to start in the finale on Thursday of this series before they'll play at the White Sox this weekend for a weekend series. I told Colton we'd go right at 4:30, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break. We can circle back. We'll talk more baseball, but I do want to get into UW and the things that they announced about their search for their next athletic director. We'll do that next with Colten Bartholomew. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to see what the whole timeline and what's going to happen, but we got to be prepared. That's the thing. As we all know, when you're in athletics, things don't wait. And every day there's an accelerated process in the athletic world that, maybe doesn't exist in everybody else's world. And so we have to have a plan. We have to be prepared. And we got to be ready to be able to move based on what happens and, probably by the end of the spring ball.
That was Luke Fickell after the practice that immediately followed, I believe, Chris McIntosh's departure, whatever Sunday night that was, about a month, maybe a little bit more than a month ago. It all starts to run together, but that's the last significant comment I think we got from Fickell. Round of comments on the departure of Chris McIntosh just gets us into our segment here with Colten Bartholomew, State Journal, Badger Extra. Colten, you're excellent at talking X's and O's and the football games and the players themselves. You also really seem to have a knack for the legalese, the procedural stuff behind the scenes. I don't know if that's something that you embrace or something that you just begrudgingly accept because you're good at it. Like, is there a reason that this has always been your stronghold or your strength in your college sports coverage for whatever reason?
I think it just kind of became part of what you had to do, and especially in the COVID era, as rules and now with NIL and stuff, as rules just keep changing, you have to keep reading all these legal things, and just try to figure out how to make that 3-page answer into 2 sentences that a reader cares about.
Genuinely, thank you for your service, because it is a huge part of college athletics. So UW announced today a couple members of their search committee, some of the things they're valuing, and they just kind of put out some general information. I have no athletic director search really to compare this to, and I don't know that you do either, but based on your expectation, is there anything that UW has said or anything that they've done so far that you have found to be abnormal or that has surprised you in any way?
I would have thought there'd be a little bit more, active coaches or coaches that are, currently working at Wisconsin on the board, on the committee that they're going to have. But at the same time, you could argue, if you're sitting there and saying, like, okay, how do we avoid maybe that? I don't know if Wisconsin views the Chris McIntosh hire as a mistake. I know that everyone over there isn't happy that they're having to do this again 5 years later. But at the same time, like, I would have thought they maybe would listen to the voices of the coaches that have to deal with the athletic director every day or being led by that position every day. But then, I can also argue on the other hand, like, I appreciate the amount of outside voices that Wisconsin tried to go get and has on this committee, because I do think that they're going to have to be really creative. I don't think this should just be go find the next, young or up and coming AD somewhere else at a mid-major or, at a maybe a lower prestige high major school. I would definitely say Wisconsin's got to be creative and look in all types of directions for this hire, because it's very easy to say this is about as consequential of a hire as you're going to have for an entire program, given everything that's going on in college sports right now.
So you said they can't just take the next up-and-comer at a smaller program. The way that I've talked about this, and I know a lot less than you or Zach or Jesse or any of the folks who come on our shows, I feel like they need someone who's been an athletic director before. Like, they need someone who's done this job. It's too big of a job. It's too hard of a job. But you're saying that they can't even get someone who's done the job at a smaller school, even at a high level. Does that mean they need someone who's been an athletic director at a Power 5 school or in the Big Ten or the SEC? Is that how you view this?
That'd be my first. If I was going to kind of power rank how I would want to approach it, yeah, that's who I'd go after first. I would overpay somebody to come from, fill in whatever school you think does a good job and go that direction. I think the Wisconsin AD job is a challenging one in a different way than a lot of other schools because as passionate as we know Badger fans are, that passion has not followed up with their wallets. And I'm not saying that anybody's wrong for not throwing a bunch of money into the NIL pots and things of that nature, but it just hasn't happened. So you've got to be, as this athletic director, you've got to be a creative fundraiser, and you've got to be somebody that is able to go out, press the flesh, as they say in politics, and get people on board with you and on board with putting money in pots that they haven't before. And I think there's a combination of finding new donors and trying to motivate those donors in a different way. I think a lot of what Wisconsin has done has been very traditional. It's always been, there are these, you donate and you get these perks, or, you get your name on buildings and things of that nature. It's very straight down the middle how pretty much every college has worked until now. But I think you've got to do some things out of the box and maybe look into the business world, maybe look into the pro sports world, that if you're not going to hire somebody that's from a Power 4 school, like go find somebody that can raise money or generate revenue in a way that's different than what you've been doing before.
What do you think is the sales pitch? Other than offering someone a ton of money, what's the sales pitch, or what virtues do you think the hiring committee is extolling? What do you think the sales pitch to sell the University of Wisconsin-Madison to this person is? What do you think they would promote and say?
I think it depends how honest everybody involved wants to be.
Sure.
I think you could easily sell it to somebody as like, hey, we've been messing up in the last few years and we've let ourselves fall behind. Yeah. If you come in and just play the game and are aggressive in the way that a lot of other schools are aggressive, it's going to take some organizational, I think, maybe not a shift in philosophy, but just accepting the realities of where they are. I've been critical of Chris McIntosh, and we've talked about it face-to-face before about they continued to plan for, rules that weren't being enforced or didn't quite exist yet. And they had this mentality that they were going to be set up for this utopia world where all the rules were enforced, everybody played by them, and they were going to be ready to go. And it's like, that isn't going to be reality probably ever, or if not ever, not for a long time. I think they're probably going to break off from the NCAA before that type of reality of everybody following the rules that the NCAA and CSC try to put together.
Sure.
Before that ever came, I think there's going to be a break. So I think somebody that comes in, whether it's, like I said, somebody from the business world, pro sports, another college, they just have to be somebody that's willing to be a little bit more aggressive, kind of, not sit back and be like, oh, we don't want to do that because, we do things the right way, like blah, blah, blah. Like that has been something that's held Wisconsin back for a long time. I think this idea of always trying to be on the moral high ground. And I'm not saying you have to do, LSU type of shady things, but at the same time, you've got to be able to play the game and get out and be aggressive and put yourself in a position to be competitive in the sports that matter.
Do you think there's any chance Marcus Sedberry could end up being the guy? And if not, does then he just slide right back into the GM role?
Well, I think he'll definitely get a shot at this. I talking to some of the people that he used to work for and with in the last, decade as he's kind of risen up in the athletic administration world. I think he's wanted to be an athletic director, and I think he's definitely going to get consideration. I don't think that he could just slide back into the GM role because the football program is going to have to fill that for the summer. Like they can't let that sit open while this search happens and everything goes down. Like I never thought that the Sedberry, like half in the athletic department, half in the football GM role, like was a long-term solution. I thought they're always going to have to eventually kind of fill one or the other. So I think now this is kind of the right impetus to say, okay, Marcus, you've got to do your administration side stuff and you've got to, really focus on that. You can help us build the infrastructure and be a resource, but for the actual GM job, I think they're going to have to fill something pretty quickly here.
I do want to ask you before we wrap up. So we learned within the last week or so that opening game against Notre Dame is going to be a night game at Lambeau. And I just think back to that LSU game and what that win meant for that season. I think it just instantly changed the way that we viewed the rest of the season. And I think a win over Notre Dame in week 1 at Lambeau could do the exact same thing for a program that probably needs it worse than the Badgers needed it at the time. What are your thoughts, coming out of spring ball and now going into the summer about the way that this season is going to open up Notre Dame Lambeau Field under the lights?
Yeah, it's tough because when you're talking about all the guys on Wisconsin's roster that are adjusting to a new place or a different level of football, when you're talking about some guys jumping from the G5 to, Wisconsin or, what have you, it's just really tough that they don't get at least one warm-up game or one game against a team that they're just definitely more talented than. And, they're not going to have the talent advantage when you just look at, the recruiting rankings or anything else like that when you're talking about this Notre Dame game. The one thing I will say, though, is Notre Dame is going through very similar transitions. If you look at, roster spot for roster spot, really the things that they've got back are, defensive line wise, their quarterback from last year's back as well. So that's a big jump for them. It's tough because any early season game in college is becoming more unpredictable with the portal, but Wisconsin's just going to have to somehow in fall camp and throughout the summer, avoid that feeling out process or those jitters that come with that first week, because any hesitation, any slip like that against a team like Notre Dame, it's going to get ugly fast, because all the things that have happened to Notre Dame or, involving Notre Dame in the last 6 months, like they're going to be ready for that game, maybe even more than Wisconsin is.
And I know you mentioned fall practice, Zach and Jesse, these two guys, I work with them and they're like, wow, we're so glad, Zach puts the me in media. Well, we don't have to drive to Platteville this year. I just know that you are still a member of not the old guard, but you're someone who appreciates the football in that town and in that play. And I know you will miss going to Platteville. If only you, I know you will miss that place and have an appreciation for that place.
I will miss the going out to lunch and everything afterward. I will not miss the 3 hours of driving a day for really nothing. So I'm a little bit excited. I'll miss seeing Ryan Munn. The head coach out there is a great guy.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take it. It's more than I can get from Zach and Jesse. Colten, thank you for helping us break down this a little bit. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Colten Bartholomew, the State Journal. Big WEAC guy. 3 hours in the car. That's nothing. Get over to Platteville or get a room. Stay the night. Enjoy the town. I don't know why I'm talking like this. We can continue to talk a little bit about UW, but they put out this statement today, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it is verbose. Good Lord. But I can give you a couple of the names that are on here, part of the search committee. Chris Ballard, general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, 1993 UW-Madison alumnus and former UW student-athlete in football. I actually didn't know he was an alum. Rob Kramer, vice chancellor for finance and administration, an alumnus of the early 90s as well. Megan Duggan, director of player development for the Devils, UW-Madison 2011 alumna, and former UW student-athlete in women's hockey royalty. Michael Finley, who played for the Mavs, 2014 UW-Madison alumnus, and former UW student-athlete in Michael basketball, men's basketball. Elsie Higginbottom, Marina Patinka, I'm sorry, I don't know. I struggle with names. Michael Shannon, William Smith as well. The director of athletics will report directly to interim Chancellor Walcott. Great, to the interim chancellor. Serving on his executive committee and providing oversight for all aspects of the university's varsity athletic programs, with a strong emphasis on student health, well-being, academic success, finance and facilities, fundraising, and excellence in competition. The role is expected to work collaboratively with members of the athletic board, campus leadership and governance groups, and will develop and maintain robust communications with alumni, philanthropic supporters, and community stakeholders. I'm all for collaboration, but let me tell you, folks, I think sometimes it can be a little overrated. We want to collaborate. Everyone's going to have a say. So, yeah, I want everyone to be heard. There's a difference between everyone being heard and everyone getting a say. At the end of the day, you're hiring that athletic director for a reason, because you believe in that person's ability to make tough decisions, sometimes unpopular decisions. I think collaboration can be a little overrated. Everyone should be heard. You should always be heard. Doesn't mean that you're listened to. Being heard and being listened to, or maybe it's the other way around. I want an athletic director that's going to hear everybody's perspective, but at the end of the day, that person's in charge. I think sometimes in the coaching world or in the team building world, collaboration, let's say, can just be a little bit overrated. So I'll take your thoughts on this next. We're going to break a little bit early. We'll wrap up hour number 1, the Wisco Sports. We'll get back to the Brewers at 5 o'clock. Mike Clemens is going to join us from the ballpark at 5:30. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Talk more Badgers.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin weather doesn't ease into spring. It keeps you guessing. That's why your windows and doors need to handle everything. At Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, we build for year-round comfort. Get the look you want for the home you love with 0% financing options available. So you can upgrade now and pay over time. Plus, enjoy a free in-home consultation, expert installation, and a 10-year limited warranty. Schedule today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. It's 5/31/2026.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Chris McIntosh departing from the athletic department.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I think you called me on Sunday.
What does that just kind of do for you guys on a day-to-day basis? Obviously, there's the bigger picture,
Yeah.
but for the football program yourself, just
Nothing right now. I mean, it's in a point. The biggest thing for us right now is, obviously Marcus Sedbury and what he has to be able to do in his role. So there's some decisions, to be honest with you, that we're just going to have to make moving forward as to what direction are we going to be able to go in that, based on what they're going to do and what he's going to do. So other than that, I think selfishly speaking, it's a decent time for us that we're locked in through all the recruiting and portal stuff for this season. Now, obviously, the following year, recruiting never stops. But at least we're in a good place where, hey, it's a focus on spring football. It's a focus on all these new guys and the guys that have been here developing this team and this camaraderie and how we can do things together. And so some of the external things at this point in time, it's kind of nice. It doesn't have a great effect on us on a daily basis.
Luke Fickell, again, last month, just kind of reacting to the news that Chris McIntosh departs. Playing that today because university announced some of the parameters of the search and those who were going to be involved. So we're reacting to that. just a little bit today. We'll get back to the Brewers at 5 o'clock. If you have any thoughts on that. Yelich back in the lineup tonight. So now they're fully loaded for the first time all season. We'll get back to that. To begin hour number 2, Mike Clemens will join us from the ballpark as well. Tonight's show presented by In on the River in Trempealeau. It's just a beautiful time of year to be over in the western side. It's a beautiful time of year to be anywhere. I'm actually going to be up in the Fox Valley. I will be in Appleton. If G-Dub is listening, he always climbs up my rear end. I can't believe you've never been out on College Ave in Appleton. Well, on Saturday, I will be doing some hiking up around Lake Winnebago, central, northeastern, north central, east central Wisconsin, somewhere up there, a couple different spots. So I will be in. It's a beautiful time to be anywhere in the state right now. I love when everything's just getting green. It's just starting to come into May and into early June, but the western side of the state, it's where I grew up. It's where I went to college, and it's certainly beautiful. Trempealeau, maybe first and foremost, you can hike around the corner, Perot State Park. I saw our friend Badger Bloody posting some pictures on Twitter, Badger Bloody Reviews, and I had to DM him like, dude, you went to Perot, and you'd never been there before. It's beautiful. Trempealeau Mountain Golf, beautiful as well. Sullivan Supper Club right down the way. The Trempealeau Hotel right around the corner. The marina right there. You want to bring the boat, go out on the river, and In on the River is the perfect place to stay for the weekend. That's your little home base, right? You look out your sliding patio door, you see the river, you see the bluffs. It's beautiful. So plan a weekend away by the river, right on the river, at In on the River. Have some food, have some drink, do some hiking, play some golf, head up to Elmaro Vineyard. Danzinger's not far away as well. Just some beautiful spots. There's always live music out on the patio or something going on. It's a great time. So make your reservation, inontheriverwi.com. You can give them a call as well, 608-534-7784. Introduce yourself. Say, hey, we've never made the trip before. We want to come down, and I'll certainly help you out. Great personal service as well. And like their Facebook page, In on the River Trempealeau on Facebook. The university put out their parameters for their search, including some of the people who are going to be on it. And first and foremost, Chris Ballard, general manager of the coach. I didn't even realize he was a Wisconsin alum. Honestly, I think there's probably a lot of people I don't realize are Wisconsin alums because we don't hear the stories of them spending a bunch of money to help bring in players. Let's go, Chris. We appreciate your input, but I know you're making nice money over there in Indianapolis. Ship some of that up north. Help university get some players on the team. Chris Ballard, Rob Kramer, Megan Duggan, hockey royalty. So there's big-time athletes, big-time alumni from multiple decades over the last 20, 30 years. Hopefully these folks will help identify somebody. But as Colton described to us in that last segment, they're going to have to get creative. I don't think this is just as simple as, well, let's go find an athletic director who's done a really good job in the MAC or a really good job in the Sun Belt or even, a really good job in the Pac-12 or the Big 12. I think you need a big time person who has done the job before. Have you been a Power 5 athletic director? And not just a Power 5, like really we're talking Big 10 SEC. Have you done it at that high of a level? And have you dealt with this much money? And in this era where it's not just about hiring the right coaches and shaking the right hands, you are fundraising on a level never needed or never seen before. Now, maybe you get creative. Maybe it's someone who's never been an athletic director before, but someone who's operated and succeeded at a high level in the business world, right? We've seen that. Whether it's some sort of a CEO, maybe of a Fortune 500, or someone who's worked in athletics in an apparel company or something like that. I don't know. But this is a hire that Wisconsin can't afford to get wrong, and something that Colton said as well. It's like you could argue this is about as consequential of a hire as a program can have. You get this wrong, and things are only going to get worse. You're already struggling to fundraise. You're already struggling to get quality talent on the field to match up with your rivals in the Big Ten. You also haven't built an identity to at least, hang tight with rivals like Iowa, and I would say even Minnesota. I think that team has an identity. They have a thing under PJ Fleck. Iowa certainly has an identity. They have a thing. Not only has Wisconsin not been able to rally money and players, let's say like Indiana or Penn State or Michigan, but they haven't even maintained their identity. They don't even have a thing like Iowa and like Minnesota. And if you get this hire wrong, it's going to get worse. This hole's going to get deeper and even harder to dig out of. It just makes me nervous that you're making this hire going into a season where your head coach is ostensibly on the hot seat. If this year doesn't go well for Luke Fickell, I don't think he can keep his job, even if the new athletic director likes him. I don't like a lack of alignment in my power structure for my sports organization. We've seen this with the Bears all the time. They're my favorite example, where they're hiring a general manager, but the coach is still there. Now they're hiring a coach, and the general manager's got to go, so the coach is still there, and the quarterback. So we fire our coach, but the quarterback's still there. Now the coach comes in, and the coach doesn't like the quarterback, so he's there a year. They get rid of the quarterback. They bring in a new quarterback. Now the coach and general manager is gone. The pair comes in. They're stuck with the old quarterback. It's like a Rubik's Cube, and all of the sides are never completely lining up. And Wisconsin has enough turmoil at the top right now. They're already looking for a chancellor. So in the very statement that Wisconsin produced today, it says, the director of athletics will report directly to interim chancellor Wilcox, serving on his executive committee and providing oversight for all aspects of the university's varsity athletic programs, with a strong emphasis on student athlete health, well-being, academic success, finance and facilities, fundraising, and excellence in competition. So first of all, let's break down all the responsibilities for an athletic director. And I don't think this is breaking news. I don't think this is new to us, but when you hear it articulated and you see it all written out, you're like, damn, this guy's in charge of a lot. Oversight for all aspects of the university varsity athletic programs, strong emphasis on student athlete health, well-being, academic success, which I don't think those things matter as much as they used to, finance and facilities, fundraising, and excellence in competition. And all of those things, I guess, are kind of joined at the hip. Fundraising leads to facilities and finance, which leads to excellence in competition. So the job, I guess, is all-encompassing. Help make money. Help bring in money. And when Chris McIntosh was hired, I don't know that they viewed the job the same way that they do now. Or stated differently, if Chris McIntosh was hired when Barry Alvarez was hired, I wonder if his tenure goes a little bit differently. I wonder if Chris McIntosh was the type of athletic director that was made for a bygone era. Because I think, as I've stated 100 times, 6 ways to Sunday, and as Colton just talked about, UW kind of approached this era with an old school mindset. Where it's like, well, yeah, I know you can pay players now, but we're going to go about this the right way, and we're going to kind of stick to the core tenets and I guess the signposts and the touch posts for what college football has always been. And I think they were a little naive and slow to adapt. And I think even maybe the hire or the, I guess the process behind Chris McIntosh taking over. I wonder if Chris McIntosh would have been a good GM 20 years ago, or a good athletic director 20 years ago, I guess is my point. Based on, what I've heard with some of the relationships with alumni and, coaches and people around the program, I would still guess no, because I think he's bad at a lot of that stuff too, but he certainly didn't excel in fundraising and modernizing a program in an era where modernization was pretty important. Who can bring in the most money and who can use that money to acquire talent and build up the football program and win. And Wisconsin was clearly not cut out for that. They were not ready. They were caught flat-footed. So now they're having to make a hire from a position of disadvantage. They're like, yeah, we can't bring in the money. Yeah, we don't got it like Indiana or Michigan or Penn State. And I liked Colton's point about like, well, I wonder if you can self-deprecate a little bit, saying like, hey, we've messed all this up. If you come in and do it the right way, this is actually a pretty good job and a pretty good program. But then you'd have to admit that we don't really know what we're doing. And I guess a harsh reality, but I think a reality. I don't think UW has known what they're doing now for the better part of 5 or 6 years. I think they came into this flat-footed, unaware of exactly what college football and exactly what college athletics and finances were really going to be. So if you have thoughts on this, I'll take your calls on the other side, 608-321-1670. I also want to get back to the Brewers. Some great injury developments. Yelich back in the lineup tonight. Good news, I think, on Priester. Good news on Koenig. Good news, or the best possible news, on Lockridge and Woodruff. So trending in the right direction. It's a big week for the Brewers. They start a series against the Cubs a week from last night, starting next Monday. Really big week. So we'll get back to the Brewers, hit the break news on the other side. After we get this 2-minute update, we'll get the headlines from Ebo.
I made a sail on down, but she took me to the river where she cast a spell, and in that
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the University of Wisconsin announced today that they will use a search firm and a committee that includes Colts GM Chris Ballard and former Badger basketball star Michael Finley to identify the school's next athletic director. The process is being initiated by incoming interim chancellor Eric Wilcox, and a final decision will be made in the hope that the athletic director starts in the summer. Turning to the Brewers, they had last night off. They'll be back in action at American Family Field tonight against the San Diego Padres. They currently sit 22-16 on the year. That's good for second in the NL Central, riding a 4-game win streak, 3 of those coming from the sweep of the New York Yankees. Here's more from manager Pat Murphy.
Pitching staff, it doesn't go unnoticed. You know, those guys. You got Harrison, never been a full-time guy in the big leagues. You got Chad Patrick, first time in the pen. DL Hall emerging as a leverage guy, and what Ashby's done is amazing. So you think about it, you know, that's pitching that was against that lineup. Best record in baseball. It was outstanding. But you got to, again, mention Contreras because he does it on both ends of the ball.
First pitch against the Padres tonight is at 6:40.
For nearly 40 years, ABC Wisconsin Apprenticeship has been helping men and women transform themselves into highly skilled trade professionals. These skills are in demand and provide strong wages and benefits for a bright future. If you're a hands-on person who likes the feeling when you get projects done, apprenticeship could be for you. Go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
The Milwaukee Bucks are reportedly open for business on trade calls and offers for Giannis Antetokounmpo, their 2-time MVP. And finally, the Green Bay Packers are in Phase 2, on-field workouts, no contact for the offseason program. Phase 3, OTAs and minicamp will begin on May 26th till June 18th. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
And you almost forget that Christian Yelich is on this team. It's like when Jackson Churro came back last week. That's right. Jackson Churro's still on this team because the Brewers have been playing so long without him and without Vaughn and now without Yelich. But, you know, that's another big bat they're going to get to this lineup with Yelich. Almost like making a trade, as they always say. So that's going to, when we last left off with Yelich, he was having a pretty good year.
Pitching staff, it doesn't go unnoticed. You got Harrison, never been a full-time guy in the big leagues. You got Chad Patrick, first time in the pen. DL Hall emerging as a leverage guy, and what Ashby's done is amazing. So
this is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2, Mike Clemens at the bottom of this hour. He'll be here at 5:35. Join us from the ballpark. Colten Bartholomew joined us at 4:30. If you missed that, just an update on UW's search for an athletic director. Jesse Temple will be here tomorrow, so we can talk more about that, pick his brain, and bash him with as many questions for as many insights as we can find. I do want to get back to the Brewers, some injury updates, but before we do, I want to make sure if anyone wants to jump in on Wisconsin football in this search and in this general topic, I want to make sure you have a chance. Let's take a call here, 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Little man from the west side.
Oh, Dave from Monona. Oh, nice to hear from you, Dave.
Topic I know a lot about pretty much because I go way back to the beginning of sports talk radio, as everybody knows anyway.
Correct.
Colton doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. Colton, stick to what you don't know. One, you do not go out and you hire another athletic director. I mean, come on, do some research. I mean, when you talk like an idiot, plus they're going about it the wrong way. You don't go hire an AD. You hire the chancellor first, stupid.
Oh,
Colton.
Well, okay. So,
and I'm gonna tell you why. I got proof to back it up.
Okay.
You were in diapers. The greatest chancellor in Wisconsin's history was Donna Shalala. See, I think women are. I can agree with women. A. Svongberg got fired. Donna Shalala came in here. She cleaned house. And the first thing she did, she didn't hire an athletic director. She hired a businessman, and Pat Richter, who ran Oscar Mayer. Richter came in and turned the whole program around from red to black and made decisions like a businessman, not an athletic director, because Donna Shalala had enough brains and smartness to bring somebody in who knew how to run. Chris McIntosh would never have made it.
Okay.
You still there? Oh, McIntosh would never have made it back then because he's not a businessman. We need someone like Elon Musk or something like that to come in. Numbers.
I guess my question is, and this is why I wonder, like, if Chris McIntosh would have been hired 20 years ago, So, here's what I'm saying though, Dave. They hired Pat Richter, who turned it around. He got the thing to where it was in a good spot, right? So, like he would, like
he's a businessman.
And you'd call that like a wartime general or a wartime president. Barry Alvarez kind of came in, and I understand like a little different. Yeah, I know. But then when Barry Alvarez eventually took over as the athletic director, things were good. So his job was a little.
Where do you think he learned it from?
True.
Where do you think he learned it? He learned it from Pat Richter and Donna Shalala.
But you would agree that the job Barry Alvarez had to do as athletic director when he took over was very different than what Pat Richter had to do. Different task.
Barry Alvarez took over an organization that the groundwork had already been laid.
Exactly.
The foundation had been laid. The finances have been laid, and the torch was turned down to Alvarez to keep it and upgrade it and move it to the next level. All of a sudden, in comes McIntosh to the end. Then comes in this nil money, done.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, he got thrown that big curveball. Like, let's just say, so Chris McIntosh is hired, and then everything stayed the same. He was brought on. Everything was kind of successful, hunky-dory, going well. If he then got to continue the job, if everything would have stayed status quo, I don't know. Again, I don't think he would have been good because I just hear too much about how, like, the connections to certain people weren't there. But I just wonder, if this hire was made at a different time, if it goes differently. That's it.
Everything changed because of nil and business, finance. We don't need an athletic director. First of all, you got to get the chancellor in first because that person runs the ship. The AD is the captain, the love boat. They're doing reverse order. I don't want an athletic director. I want a businessman like Elon Musk. He'll come in here, all numbers, boom, turn the program from red to black, and guess what? And one last thing. I can't wait to hear all these fans when Notre Dame beats the living hell out of Wisconsin, and they got a new AD is sitting there going, oh, my God. Nobody's coming to these games this year. It's going to be 60,000 fans. It's going to be Abe Spomberg all over again with Don Morton, and we all know what happened to Don Morton.
So good call, Dave. So I think we're agreeing. This happens a lot. I think we're agreeing on most stuff. Barry Alvarez took over. The ship was stable, and the job remained kind of the same throughout his tenure. Barry Alvarez never had to deal with the core of his sport fundamentally changing the way that it did under McIntosh. I don't think Chris McIntosh was cut out for the gig. However, let's not act like the sport, like the ground didn't change under him. The sand shifted under him. And I don't think that UW's inability or failure to shift and to move along with it, I don't think that was just limited to Chris McIntosh. I think there were countless people in that athletic department and in the university who really kind of underestimated the changes and the drastic nature of college football and what was going to happen over the next couple of years. So it wasn't just McIntosh, but obviously he was at the helm. I just wonder, as athletic director in this version of college sports, in this modern era of college sports, if it's just as true, like if it's just as simple, Dave, as you're putting, like who can bring in the most money? Like who's that person? And is that the best person for the job no matter what? Like gone are the days of having the sense of an old football guy who knows what coach to hire because he can shake his hand and look in their eye and I know this guy's the right guy for the program. Does that even matter anymore? Or is it just simply the person who can come in and deliver the most money, like a straight up meritocracy, like a salesperson? What are your billings? How much business can you bring in? Is it that simple? Because if so, this is a much, much, much different job than it was, even when Chris McIntosh was being groomed by Barry Alvarez, but of course eventually hired as well. It's a very different job. And is that old wily football guy Barry Alvarez is that just complete? Does that not matter anymore? Because it just matters how much money you can bring in to pay players and stick them on your roster. 608-321-1670. Another call or two on this Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell.
I assumed this was you, Darnell. Nice to hear your voice. What's going on?
Well, that sounded a whole lot like Trump's first term, when people were like, hey, you can't just run the country like a business. You have to remember it's a country. You can't treat it like a business and just reduce everything to black and red, right?
So you would be correct on that. The country is different than an athletic department, but I do wonder, Dave was using Elon Musk as an example. I don't I don't think it's
which is
just
a funny comp there.
It is funny. But I just wonder if when hiring the athletic director, if like the end all be all and really the only thing that matters is how much money can you bring in? Like, has everything else, Darnell, been reduced to such like an insignificant part of the job where it's just like who can deliver the most cash on a platter into the building to stick into our coffers?
I mean, I think all you have to do is look at Indiana, and that answers your question, right? Bottom of the barrel football program for the better part of 4 or 5 decades, and they win a natty in 3 years.
Okay, so
you know what I mean?
How much is the money and how much is Cignetti? Because there's got to be, again, the football guy. I want to shake his hand. I want to get me in a room with him. I need to look in his eye. Like, I don't even know who Indiana's athletic director is, but they made the call to hire Cignetti. Let's say they hire Fickell instead, but they still deliver buckets and buckets and buckets of money, right? Like, is Indiana in the same place? And is Wisconsin still in the same place if you just flip the coaches because Indiana has that much more money?
I honestly think it's a money thing now. Like, it really, it seems to be. And I wish.
Now, part of it is Cignetti had early success and delivered the excitement to the, you know what I mean? Like the boosters had to be stirred. They had to be moved, but there's also just a lot more money to be drawn into Indiana. So I guess I would just be so interested if you just flip the coaches. I wonder what that reality would look like.
Well, and I don't think Cignetti is this Jesus and Fickell is this terrible coach, right? I think that they have two differing situations where maybe, obviously, Cignetti seems to be a better coach than Fickell, right? And better program runner and all of those things, and he delivers on what he's promising. So, that aside, he's also got many, many, many more means in the last 3 or 4 years over Wisconsin's program and what Fickell was given, I guess, from a monetary standpoint. It's just, I think at this point, it has been reduced to how much money can you give me? How much money do we have at our disposal? And what players can we bring in with that money, right? Like, I think that's, at the end of the day, that's where things are. And whether you like it or not, that's kind of where they're going to continue to go as the time moves on here. Honestly, wasn't calling about that.
Go ahead.
I wanted to really quick touch on the Brewers.
Go ahead.
I saw some stuff on Twitter today about when they released the lineup and like, oh, finally, it looks great, right? Except for that 7-8-9. That 7-8-9 is still so terrible. I'm like, were you watching the first month and a half of the season here where we were running Jones out in the 8 spot? Like, this 7-8-9 is so much more palatable than where we were.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
this 7-8-9, Darnell, works because there's 7-8-9 in a lineup with an actual real 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes. Like, it's not like, it doesn't feel like 7-8-9 is also 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and sometimes 1, right? That's how it felt for the better part of April, where it was like, oh my, do we seriously have Rengifo leading off? Like, that happened once, and I was like, what are we doing here? So I don't want to throw that out there and just say, hey, this is so much better. Great to have Yelich back. Hopefully he's like actually back, and it's not just one of those.
Yeah.
We brought him back to help morale, but he's not really 100%. So don't expect any home runs. You know, like that. We've seen that before.
Kill worms on the right side of the infield. No, I'm with you, Darnell. I just want to get to 2 other calls here. So the lineup tonight is Terang, Churio, Yelich, Contreras, Bowers, Mitchell, Frelick, Hamilton, Ortiz. I don't think Ortiz is any good. I don't think David Hamilton is anything special. Frelick has been mostly bad, and I think Garrett Mitchell is mostly not good. But Mitchell hitting 6th, all right. Frelick hitting 7th, sure. And Hamilton and Ortiz actually being 8 and 9 in a lineup with a real 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. That work. The shape of that makes sense. That's palatable. That's serviceable. Now you want to find ways like hopefully Mitchell and Frelick get going. Hopefully Ortiz, let's take a call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, it's Coach Freed in the Dirty Dallas.
Good evening, Coach Freed. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Love this discourse about Coach Fickle, and I gotta really give credit to the Apple Man for taking a big swing and trying to mesh the elite a little bit there. Except for the only fact is, the Apple Man was not elite in any regard.
Robin Pington was a good hire. And I guess Mike Hastings.
That was Hastings, yeah.
And this is, look, this is why, like, I think he's hired some good coaches, and that used to be mostly the job, coach. This is why I asked, like, if McIntosh took over after Pat Richter like Barry Alvarez did, like maybe McIntosh has that thing where it's like, let me shake the coach's hand and get a cut of their jib. And maybe he's pretty good at that. You'd have recent evidence that he is. I don't know about all the other stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the main thing I really wanted to call in for was just to spread some pro-Fickle propaganda. I tried to do that during Bill's show today, and then that kind of backfired on me, so I thought maybe take two would be a little bit better here. I'm not going to stop.
You're not going to stop supporting Luke Fickle?
Never. I mean, the man's taken a group of 5 team to a 4-team college football playoff. If that's not elite, I don't know what is.
So you'd be right about that. It just there has to be
the money he needs.
When does the statute of limitations on that expire? You know,
probably after this year.
Yeah, it's Coach Freed. I appreciate it. I'm going to cut you off there. That's exactly how this is lining up. Is probably after this year. You are correct, and I hadn't thought about the Apple Man in a while.
Oh, the Apple Man.
The Apple Man, Chris, the Apple Man and Bat Girl.
Oh, the Apple Man.
Thank you, Dave. 608-321-1670. One more call here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's that? Hello?
Hey, is this John Madison?
Hey, John. What's going on?
Hey, just, I think the conversation around, like, hiring a president of the university first is pretty outdated. Like, let's be honest. Like, these are all academics.
Okay.
As presidents of the university, they don't care. All they want is
president, yes, but is there a difference between president and chancellor? They need both. I would agree with you on president, but chancellor might be a little bit more connected to the athletic director.
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
Do any of these chancellors have any sort of like understanding or any participation in athletics around like what it means to be a collegiate athlete? No. All they're focused on is like, how are we going to make sure that we are prestigious when it comes to the, like, you know, top 100 U.S. news rankings and public universities versus private universities, international students versus national students? They don't care. So if we nail this hire on an AD, if anything, that's going to enhance a chancellor wanting to come here, because they're going to be like, hey, I don't have to think about athletics because this dude or gal is going to take over and I don't have to think about that. And that's just one thing off my plate. And I'm going to be able to divert my resources and my time and my ability to fundraise solely around academics.
Okay.
That's all they really want to do. Because, but you can draw that up from college all the way down to the like K through 12 public education system, because I promise you, like if you're a superintendent of a big school district, you're not looking to like micromanage the athletic department. What you want to be able to do is say, look at our test scores, look how much we are increasing in reading and math, and you just want your AD to be able to run everything in terms of sports and just like only make the news in a positive light. So
sure.
I just think if they make an awesome AD hire here, it's only going to enhance our ability to hire a really great chancellor.
So I think it'll make the job for the chancellor more appealing. John, that's a good call. I don't know that I fully agree with you, but I don't know enough about this to tell you that you're wrong. I think there are some chancellors. I think Chancellor Mnuchin is probably like this. I don't know that she had a whole lot of interest in athletics. I don't know that, but I don't think it's a ridiculous take to think she doesn't want to worry about that. She's doing other things. The athletic director runs athletics. Okay, I could believe that. But I don't know that for certain about every chancellor. And I tell you what, John, if what you're telling me is true, then you want to know what I never want to hear? That I never want to hear the athletic director come out in a time of crisis and say, hey, I'm aligned. We're aligned. I'm aligned with the chancellor. We're sharing a vision. We're working together. Oh, okay. Well, if what you're telling me is true, then I never want to hear that. Not that I really bought it in the first place, because when McIntosh said it, he was on his way out the door, and so was the chancellor. We're so aligned. Yeah, you're aligned in that you're both leaving. You're both going somewhere else. I agree. Look, if they hire a good athletic director, it makes the chancellor job more appealing, which is good for everybody. I prefer them to hire an order. I don't know why they're not. It's probably some bureaucratic, logistical reason that's not interesting to me or interesting for the purposes of the talk show. So I'm going to move on and move past it. I don't care.
The Apple Man.
Yeah, correct, Dave, the Apple Man. Let's take a break. We'll be back just a couple minutes. Mike Clemens is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. A couple more Badgers thoughts on the other side and an update on the latest with the Brewers and their injury situation as well.
The Apple Man.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
He was about to get kicked out of here. They even got a president. The next president was going to boot his ass out of here. I mean, all these people soft soaping. What the hell do we pay Zach for? And Jesse and all the other rest of the a-holes that do reporting this down. We don't get nothing. All we get is, well, you know, they created a new position.
I am excited about where the program can go. There is a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done.
Oh, the Apple Man.
It will not be easy. It will require all of us.
Apple Man. Oh, the Apple Man.
This is why I'm so grateful for the support that Chancellor Mnuchin has given us. The level of alignment that we have right now is at a level that I've not experienced here in my time. at Wisconsin. It will require our fans and our supporters and our donors to be part of it, but it's for those reasons that I'm optimistic about our chances.
Oh, the Apple Man.
The alignment from the top, chance of nuking.
Apple Man. Oh, the Apple Man.
He's the Apple Man. The Apple Man. Chris McIntosh. Badgers looking for his replacement. I forgot about that song. One of my finer pieces of audio production. You guys understand how weird this job is? I come home. I interact with my friends, my loved ones. How was your work day today? What'd you do? How was work? I don't know. I made a Rocket Man parody about Chris McIntosh. They pay you to do that, huh? Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm proud of myself, but that is how I fill my days from 9 to 5. The Apple Man, Chris McIntosh. We will never see his likes again. I'm not sure what we'll do without him. The Badgers announced their members of their search committee today, so we've been addressing that, reacting to that a little bit.
Oh, the Apple Man.
Correct, Dave. Thank you. Colten Bartholomew is here at 4:30, so if you missed that, go back in the podcast. Jesse Temple tomorrow. Johnny Cribbage says, is UW going socialite? A CEO whale? Herb Kohler? The Johnsonville Brat owner? Gruber? The owner of the Minnesota Wild? I don't know. What, David Gruber's supposed to go around and no, I don't think that's big enough. I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's going to cut the mustard. Mike Clemens going to join us in about 10 minutes. He was nice enough to fire over some Pat Murphy pregame audio. Let's listen to a little bit of this, but not before I give you the headline. So this is what we're dealing with, and you'll hear Pat Murphy talk about this. Quinn Priester going to get a rehab assignment this weekend. Brandon Woodruff is scheduled for a bullpen on Thursday. Brandon Lockridge's MRI showed a bone bruise, and he's anticipated back mid to late June. Koenig is also going to throw his first pen today, which I think is probably the most significant update of them all, other than Christian Yelich being back in the lineup tonight, which is way earlier than I thought he would. Here's Pat Murphy kind of talking about some of these things. We can listen and react together.
Well, it's sure a good feeling to have Yelly back. He means so much to our team. Playing without him is never a good thing. And it helps other people get exposed and helps other people get a chance. But it feels great to have him back.
Just pleasant to near pure lineup having him, Churio on all together.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, when any team has their 3 of their top 5 hitters out, and it makes it tough. We played some games with four of our top 5 hitters out. It's difficult. It's half your team, but like I said, other guys step up, and nobody's going to feel sorry for you. So I'm proud that we withstood that, and now hopefully we get some games under Yelly's belt and get him back in a groove.
Very rude. Someone's ringer's going off in this. I want 1 or 2 more comments here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we really more of the question, or the way I'd like to answer that question, Kurt, is more we're still finding ourselves. We're still understanding what kind of offense we need to be. We didn't hit very many home runs, I don't think. Home runs are, again, I always say this, home runs are thrown. So we face some really good pitching too. We face some really good pitching. You think about it. Some of the best in the major leagues. So I think it's hard to evaluate it by numbers in those small increments, but certainly we weren't as confident as we've been at times. So
it's a really polite way of saying on offense, we kind of sucked. Kurt Hogue writing earlier today, with Yelich on the shelf, the Brewers hit 242 with the 330 on base and slugged just 332, the lowest mark in the majors. Their 91 weighted runs created plus was 91, 5th worst in that span. They've somehow been able to scrape runs together. I'm not acting like it's been a brilliant display or that this offense has been really good, but they've been able to do more than just occasionally steal a game. They've won, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've won 7 of 9. And if you go back even further, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They've won 7 of 9 and 9 of 12. So they're on a pretty good run here, and they've scored, I'm just looking at the numbers they put up, 13, 6, 4, 6, 6. Couple, scraping close wins, 2 walk-offs against the Yankees, so 4-3 and 4-3 were the margins. But it's not like they've had to win games 2-1 or 1-0. They've been able to score runs. It's been not exactly an aerial assault. Let's put it that way. And I know, guys, I know. Well, Grant, the run scored on a single counts the same as much as the run scored on a homer. Yeah, I know. But being able to hit the occasional homer makes a big difference. Look no further than Sunday when Bryce Terang quite literally stole you a win, because with 2 outs and nobody on in the 9th, he was able to dial up a pitch and hit it over the fence. Like, that's simple. There you go. That's a win that you have because of a home run. And sure, they could have won it in extras, but then they would have needed to use more relievers and they would have needed things to go their way, as opposed to, one swing over the fence, and that's the difference. Just like that. Yes, Herb Kohler is dead, as I'm being corrected on the live stream. I didn't text it in. Herb Cole and Herb Kohler. Johnny Curbage just suggesting some names. It's like Major League. Well, this guy here is dead, so cross him off the list. He won't be the next AD. Fine. Odd. Yes, he passed away. Rest in peace. Sorry if I didn't show the proper reverence to the dead. Mike Clemens going to join us next on the other side, live from American Family Field with the latest and some of the updates that he heard from Pat Murphy before the game and some things that he saw and heard kicking around the clubhouse as well. Mike Clemens will join us next on the other side.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Well, it's sure a good feeling to have Yelly back. He means so much to our team, and playing without him is never a good thing, and it helps other people get exposed and helps other people get a chance. But it feels great to have him back.
Pat Murphy just an hour or two ago, pregame. Brewers back at it tonight against the Padres. Brandon Sproat on the mound, and Christian Yelich is back. So this lineup, full force for the first time all year. Good updates on Koenig. Seems like a positive progression from both Woodruff and Priester as well. Mike Clemens is down at the ballpark. Mike, appreciate you jumping on with us for 5 or 10 minutes here. First, let's start with the updates. Yelich is back. Seems like all of these other players, whether it be Lockridge, Koenig, Woodruff, Priester, trending in the right direction as well. All good news from Pat Murphy before the game, it sounded like.
Yeah, and a little bit of a surprise to us because I would have thought maybe another week or two for Yelich.
For sure.
April 12th that, he goes like, oh, man, he knew right away there was something wrong. And first it was like a hamstring and then MRIs and they're talking about a adductor and that's going to take more time. But whatever, he's working on it. Felt good enough. And on top of the fact that they lost Brandon Lockridge when he ran into that wall trying to get to the foul ball from left field, the knee going between a couple of cushions on a pointed part of the wall. And he's going to be out now till June with that laceration and damage that was done to I think that was his left knee. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Yelich is good to go. So he's going to DH tonight and bat third. And then updates on other guys like how's Quinn Priester. The main point, though, for Murph is this. Like, all right, you got through April, and now you're into mid-May, and now here you sit, 3.5 games behind the Cubs in second place, but you got through that rough part without Chourio, without and Andrew Vaughn, and now you got Yelich back. You got these bats back, and maybe that changes how you approach your offense a little bit because you've got bigger bats. What about the mound? Quinn Priester, he's going to be rehab assignment this weekend. Brandon Woodruff. Did you hear that there was some fluid on the shoulder that they had to drain?
Yeah, they had to drain a little if it was swollen so there was no damage, there was no injury, but they had to drain fluid. And Mike, I don't know. When
I heard that last week, like, oh.
Yeah, that makes me think of David Bakhtiari always, where it's like, oh, so we need to, it's like, so this thing is going to need an oil change every couple of days, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
On the throwing shoulder there. And then Jared Koenig, he's going to throw his first bullpen today as well. So you're getting some of these guys back. Tyler Black is optioned out with bringing back Yelich. And then he talked today. Murph talked a little bit about Blake Perkins, and he was pretty emotionally frustrated when he didn't make the cut coming out of spring. But they've got too many other bats ahead of him. Unbelievable defensive player. So Murph is openly talking about trying to bring Blake back on board, and of course Blake Perkins comes up with a kind of a clutch 2-run RBI in that great game against the Yankees on Sunday.
And a Mother's Day moment, and I loved BA invoking Bill Hall. This is such a funny baseball team, Mike, because, they never won a World Series and not a ton of signature postseason moments, but God, we'll never forget Bill Hall with a pink bat on Mother's Day in 2006. And I love that BA included that in his call.
And the thing about it, though, too, is like, that's all Brewers fans really had to cheer about.
Yep.
And, they won a game and they did it with a pink bat. Now you've got a team that's, been regularly winning your division, getting into the postseason, has so much more potential, we know where the rest of that story goes is, come on, pay somebody, man. Pay Bryce Terang now. What are you waiting for?
Got to break farther into the postseason or win one more series. I mean, they were in the NLCS last year. It's just the way they lost to the Dodgers felt so brutal. I know, Mike, over the last week, you were also at the introductory press conference for Taylor Jenkins. So I want your take on that. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like everybody in the room wanted to ask more about the Giannis of it all rather than, hey, Taylor Jenkins, nice to meet you. Tell us about yourself and the way that you plan to coach. You know what I mean?
Well, because everything around the franchise is built around that. Is it going to be another rebuild of a roster set for 34 in the middle of the court? Or is he going to be gone and then you're going to use this 10th overall pick and all those kinds of things? So let me tell you what it's like being covering the Bucks in our off season when I'm not doing Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of you made the transition to Doc Rivers. You got Wes Edens there. You got Mark Lasry. It was, Wes Edens and Mark Lasry come to town, was it 13 years ago, and say, we're going to build a new forum. We're going to build a deer district. We're going to make this a champion. And all those boxes were checked. Then you get into this season. Giannis is hurt. The team's not playing together. It's kind of a mess. You've got these various injuries, and you can't quite get a winning streak going. And is it Doc Rivers? Is it the players? Is it? And at the end of the day, by February or March, after the trade deadline is passed, I think Jim Ozarski, beat reporter for JS Online, who's regularly with you guys and on Bill's, he finally took a step back and talked to everybody, and he's had a pretty good. We haven't talked to Wes Edens, the primary owner, now left with that group of 4 or 5 main guys, in about a year or so. And Jim did a really good report with him, but he finally wrote a column this spring that said, "Okay, is it Giannis? Is it the players around him? Is it Doc Rivers? Is it the assistants? Is it the trainers? Is it John Horst?" And at the end of the day, it's like, where's the ownership? Where's the ownership that said, we insist on this being a championship team and we're doing everything? They seem to be in hiding. And then last week, here we are with the new nice looking prospect for a head coach in 41-year-old Taylor Jenkins. Because let's face it, with all of this dysfunction going on, and that was the word that came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the Bucks front office seems to be dysfunctional.
Well, too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone wants to have a say, which is tough enough when you already have multiple owners who are rotating, but also an owner who might be in absentia, and then a general manager who wants to say, and a coach who's on the way out. It's just like a very messy situation.
And then Peter Fagan, the president of the team, the guy who, when those guys first came to town, would come into Bill's show and, wanted to go out to dinner and talk about, this is what we're going to do, taking over for Senator Herb Kohl with his Bucks franchise. He says, I'm going to go back to New York and be with family. Like, what? And now Jimmy Haslam is bringing in one of his guys with Wisconsin ties, but from Cleveland to now take over. Well, I got news for you. People I know in the organization have been there since the senator or people, during this Wes Edens last regime, the place is tense, and it's not just because of the losing streaks they were having, or Giannis is hurt again kind of period. It's like, is this going to be a total regime change? Like, are we all going to be out of here when this season is over with? Last Wednesday, at that press conference at the Art Museum on Milwaukee's lakefront, beautiful backdrop, everybody was smiling, like maybe this is the new chapter. And it's not that it was all on Doc. It's just like, I think Haslam has sort of come in and said, this is the group now. This is the plan. And here's what happens. We decide on Giannis. We see what happens in the lottery pick, for the draft. We start building a draft, and we move on from there. So I think people get the sense now, no, John Horst is going to be the GM. Here's our new coach. It's up to Giannis to make his decision, and we move on from there. So it seemed to settle down. And then over the weekend, this story breaks in the Wall Street Journal. Wes Edens, going through divorce. He's on his LinkedIn page. He starts getting these direct messages from this woman. I think her name is Changli Lao. She calls herself Sophia. Oh, it's interesting. So you're an owner of an NBA team. That's interesting. So they have conversation. They get together. They go back to her place. It gets physical. And then she comes around and says, kid, and I'm going to let your family know, or your investors, unless you pay me X millions of dollars. And then it starts to get unglued. She starts acting even more irrationally. Then she claims she now has an STD and blames it on him. And she's asking for $1 billion. He was, according to the Wall Street Journal report, and now these are papers that are going in. This is going into trial. She's being charged that he was going to pay her $1 million and maybe up to as much as $6.5 million. That at some point he said, okay, I got to go to my lawyers. We got to talk to the authorities about this. And all that stuff is, so now when you wonder, where's Wes been? Well, now you know. Now you know there's others. I mean, this sounds like one of those shows you watch on Netflix, right? Like Succession or something.
Correct. And luckily, I guess, for Edens, he's the second most famous person embroiled in a public sex scandal in American professional sports right now. Like Vrabel and Rossini still have, I guess, a bigger spotlight. So I guess he can take solace in that. Lastly, Mike, I know we all hate Jimmy Haslam and he sucks and he's a bad owner and all that. I was not struck by anything that he said last week negatively. I thought everything that he said made sense, well delivered. I'm on board with it. What was your impression of Jimmy Haslam as he's the governor who's now rotating in? He's taking over. If he's running the ship, just based on what we heard him say last week, how do you feel about that?
After what he said on the record from the stage, he came over and came to the side, and he's from Tennessee originally.
Mm-hmm.
His father started that Pilot and Flying J gas station business. I think he's actually stepped off his board of directors, but he's worth billions. I said, Jimmy, I said, you ever been here before? Because it's the beautiful Calatrava with the picturesque background of the lake. And he said, no, hell no. I said, when they told me they were going to have this thing to introduce our new coach at an art museum, I said, what the hell is that? But I said, this is a beautiful thing. He was very pleased. So see, the boss was pleased that this all worked out and that they were moving through. And I asked a couple of questions. And then I asked him point blank, I go, all right, so what have you learned as a new owner of this Bucks team the last 2 years between all the injuries and all the things that have happened? The fate, they keep on turning over the wrong cards. Damian Lillard with the Achilles, blah, blah, blah. And he said, maybe we need to look at our medical. Maybe we need to look at that. But we feel really good now about where we are with this new coach at 41 years old and all that. And then he put it back on Giannis's plate. All we need now is for Giannis to make his decision, which is pretty strong leadership, which is, none of those guys did before. And according to Doc Rivers, after it was pretty much known that he was going to be stepping down, and he's writing his speech for the Hall of Fame this summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doc was stepping away from the situation and said, look, man, he said, the owners, nice people. Giannis, a great basketball player. He doesn't want to talk about all this stuff. He just wants to play basketball. He just wants to win. But these people need to take care of this and in the same room and not do it in the media.
Yeah.
And I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of it.
Well, and I don't think, Mike, and this goes back to March when the ownership did that conversation with Ramona Shelburne, and they said, Giannis is either going to extend or he'll be traded. And it was very clear. And that's the first time we've ever heard anything like that from Bucks ownership. And then they said it again. I don't think it's any accident that Bucks ownership have made their messaging very public and very clear. So this is not up for interpretation on exactly how they want to proceed. And I would imagine they're expecting the same from Giannis. You let us know, man, directly in this time frame, and then here's how we will proceed. I think this is as direct and as public as we've heard these two sides, at least from ownership. Now we wait to hear from Giannis and his camp. Mike, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk again soon for one reason or another, I'm sure.
You bet, Grant. Thank you, pal.
Mike Clemens down at the ballpark. He was at Taylor Jenkins' introductory press conference last week. I got no love lost for Jimmy Haslam. The dude sucks, and he's proven to be a very bad sports owner. But I didn't take any issue with anything he said last week at the podium, or he had a side session. I know Carly Marota's clip of him went viral when he said, he's going to sign or we're going to trade him. And we better know in these next 6 weeks. Yeah, good. That's how they should be operating at this point. It would be one thing if Giannis was winning MVPs and they were ending up in the conference finals, the NBA finals. And he's been hurt. It hasn't been working. We're to the point now where we need to get down to brass tacks. And I appreciate the direct ownership. Now, who's to say that, Jimmy Haslam's going to hire any of the right people or empower any of the right people in the next few years? I don't know. But all we have to go on so far as his tenure in the Bucks organization is what we saw last week, and I'm fine with it. I have no problem with any of that. Screw Jimmy Haslam, sure. But, practically, functionally, I have no issue with anything he said or did last week. Let's take a break. Final segment of the show coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin weather doesn't ease into spring. It keeps you guessing. That's why your windows and doors need to handle everything. At Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, we build for year-round comfort. Get the look you want for the home you love with 0% financing options available. So you can upgrade now and pay over time. Plus, enjoy a free in-home consultation, expert installation, and a 10-year limited warranty. Schedule today at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. It's 5/31/2026.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I'm not hardcore reporting here, but my sense is they sort of want to be blown away.
Right.
They want some team or teams to come to them with an offer that they could present to the Bucs fan base, to the media. This is a PR thing to a degree as well, Bill. And everyone's going to sit there and say, wow, there's no way they could have turned that down. Now, I don't know if that exists. And maybe they'll settle on a package, Bill, that they realize, you know what, that doesn't exist. We're going to have to take some season ticket cancellations. We're going to have to take 8,000 people in Fiserv Forum for a while. Maybe they'll decide on that. That's up to Wes Edens and Jimmy Haslam. I still think there's a path here, Bill, where we're talking, first week of July, and we're talking about moves and signings and trades that they're rebuilding around Giannis. But I do think ownership's willing to find out, which is why we're here, and it's what makes this a little different than years past.
Jim Ozarski earlier on Bill's show. I want to play you one more soundbite here before we wrap up the show, just to conclude after chatting a little Bucks and getting Mike Clemens' reaction to the Taylor Jenkins introductory press conference. This is 2 minutes of Jim Ozarski talking about how this roster looks different with Giannis versus without in their plans and how they're going to operate this summer.
I mean, this roster is so different with him or without him. Because look, he's under contract. We know what Taylor Jenkins can do with this team with a Giannis. So if he's on the team quickly, Bill, it makes sense to sort of run it back with 30-year-old Miles Turner. Great fit next to Giannis. You've got a coach who might actually use him in the way everyone thought. Right.
Sure.
Bobby Portis makes sense as a big man off the bench. But if you're trading Giannis, obviously you're looking for an all-NBA level player coming back or an all-star that you think could develop into all-NBA. So again, let's throw some names. Paolo Banchero, Jalen Johnson, that type of guy. You're building the roster differently. It doesn't make sense, Bill, then to have a Portis and a Turner per se. Kyle Kuzma, I think, on his expiring $22 million, I think Bill just kind of has to be involved in any trades. I don't think Kyle's back. But look, if Giannis is back, and look, even if he's not, the number 10 pick last year, Bill, helped Houston get Kevin Durant. So I'm not saying they'll trade the number 10 for Durant specifically, but I think that maybe it can inform Bucs fans on a potential market or a precedent for, hey, what can we get, in terms of a good player to complement Giannis. So I think while the number 10 pick may not be as attractive in terms of, the top 4 or 5 guys in this draft, it could be very attractive if you pair that with a Kuzma outgoing salary, or you pair it with a Kuzma Portis, to get a really high level veteran player. So yeah, it's hard to pick names, Bill, but I do think that the Bucs have an interesting asset in that number 10 pick if they choose to trade it to continue to rebuild around Giannis.
It's just a little bit of an idea. Jim Ozarski, the Journal Sentinel, what the Bucs strategy is if they're building around Giannis this summer versus if they're trading Giannis and then they're operating differently. Players like Kyle Kuzma, who's probably gone regardless because he's either going out to match salary to bring in a player around Giannis or he's going out with Giannis as salary filler. And then that 10th overall pick as well. Remember, of course, a year ago, Houston had a very similar pick, and they used that pick to help bring Kevin Durant in. So just a couple of different points of view from Jim Ozarski on how this offseason could operate one way or another. We'll pick this up tomorrow, probably start with the Brewers. It's a big week for them. What have they won? 9 of 12 or something like that? Moving forward, if they can get a couple series wins now that they're healthy, momentum into the Cubs early next week, be big.